What's up, y'all? It's Sunday. NFL Week 2 full slate. Are you kidding me? Let's get to it. So, before we even get into it, Man United versus West Ham tied up right now 1-1. What? 17 plus added time in the game. They just brought on Lingard. Brought on Lingard and Sancho. I'm watching this game live, so perfect live bet. If we head over here to RI Sportsbook, look at the live events, go to soccer. What are they sitting at right now? Plus 185 to get the victory. So they out there working. Ooh, cross into the box, so fucking close. They're gonna get this victory. They're gonna get a late winner. So I sent it. You might see the defeat live. You might see last second victory. Me going hectic. Live on a podcast. Bruh. Awful ball by McTominay. Just turning the ball over. Fuck it. We just gonna let it rock. But on this show, we got DFS Sleepers. Full slate of DFS Sleepers for you. We got all my locks. How many locks we got today? We got 9 locks for the NFL games. We got 7 locks on the props. So locks all over. I'm not just a show that's I'm gonna sit here and be safe and I'm gonna give you my 5 picks of the day. No, we're gonna send out like 16 picks, and guess what? If they hit, they hit. But all of it is with full confidence. And like yesterday, we sent out 19 picks. 19 picks on the pod. And guess what? 12-7. Granted, you're gonna have some losses in there. It can't go perfect. Boys ain't fucking Nostradamus over here. But with that pick percentage at 63%, let's go. 15 minutes left in this game now. Man United just had a shot on net. Had a nice opportunity, but West Ham with the ball back in their own half. So we're going to kick off the show by going over DFS Sleepers. We got 2 quarterbacks. So my first DFS Sleeper for this Sunday is Teddy Bridgewater on the road versus Jacksonville. Only sitting 5,400. And if we head over here, look at all the quarterbacks. So if we go down here, look at Teddy Bridgewater. Only Derek Carr and Andy Dalton. Carson Wentz, rookie quarterback. Donald's probably good for a pick in the game versus New Orleans. And I'm surprised in that game, that New Orleans versus Carolina game, what's absolutely insane is New Orleans only favored by, I think, 3.5 or 3 on the dot on the road versus Carolina, especially after that huge victory, a straight stomping over the Packers last week. That 3-point line, like granted it's a division matchup, but damn, I think that's insane. Especially like if you look at the Patriots, granted they have a locked in defense, but being favored by 6 after coming off a loss at home versus Miami, they're going on the road to the Jets is gonna be tight tough. Dead ass. I think the Jets will cover that, but we stayed away from that game. Like on the spread, we have New England locked in minus 250. I think it was one of the that's obviously a penalty. Ronaldo going down in the box. He stuck his foot out. Stuck the little foot out. Boy, that's a penalty. Oh, are they reviewing it? They're going to VAR? Hold up. He said, fuck him. Ronaldo hit him with one of those. Damn, he hit him with that. Bro, that's obviously a penalty. Oh my God. That's absolutely insane that they didn't call it. That is brutal. That's going to be talked about all day. And just because of that, that's bad vibes. I think Man United will for sure get a late winner. But it's kind of hectic watching some shit live, right? And our other pick to start the day was PSV at home versus Feyenoord. Bruh, lost 2-0. I don't know what that coach is doing. He has all his, like, Madueke on the bench. Ended up taking off Mario Götze. Like, what are you doing? Taking off Gakpo? And then not even replacing him with Madueke? What are you doing? That is absolutely insane. I don't know what the fuck that coach was thinking. But that's how you start the morning sometimes, right? Shit was shake. Shit was that shake'ems. No Pockies. Alright, so let's get into these DFS sleepers back over here on DraftKings. So 5,400 for Bridgewater, especially when he's coming off a week where he completed 28 of 36 passes for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns at home versus the Giants. I think that's beautiful value right there at 5,400. And my other sleeper, right? We have a quick lock for a quarterback, but these are just all my DFS sleepers. Mac Jones, throwing it 39 times last week, completing 29 passes for 281 yards in a tutty versus the Dolphins last week. And the Dolphins have a pretty solid defense. And divisional matchup, that was tough. But I think both of those at 5,400. I think Bridgewater is a step above in value for this one. Because New England, if they start shutting out the Jets, pick off Zach Wilson a couple times, it's going to be a running game. They'll probably throw out Ramondre Stevenson out there. But that shit's hectic. That shit's absolutely hectic that they're still so cheap. And Tyrod Taylor, 5,500. Granted, he had a hell of a week last week, but you're going against Cleveland. And they're the last defense because they played, last defensive rank, as you see, 32nd, because they played Patty Mahomes last week. So I'm not sure. Like, granted, it's only $100 difference, but Mac Jones and Bridgewater, my sleepers of the week for quarterbacks. And my lock of the week for the quarterback position is Russ Wilson. Had a hell of a week last week versus Indy. And Indy has a stout defense. Granted, they're dealing with some injuries. But throwing 4 touchdowns. And granted, he only threw it 23 times, completing 18 passes. But 254 yards. Had a couple long balls. And I think in this game, Tennessee is going to come off that stomping by Arizona last week. They lost, 38-13. No points in the fourth quarter between either team, and that game should have definitely hit the over. But I think Tennessee will come out in this game. They'll put up points, and sitting 7,500, granted that's pretty expensive, but that is my lock of the week versus Tennessee, especially after last week. You seen what Kyler Murray did to them. And Kyler Murray, that's one of my props this week. Completed 21 of 32 passes for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. Balled out. So, I think Russ Wilson, lock of the week at the quarterback position. Dak Prescott going up against that tough defense, that's not bad either, because, and what's weird about that one, we'll take a look at the spread on that game quick. For the Cowboys to be +3 underdogs, +140, that's one of my locks of the week over for the slate of games, one of my 9 locks of the week. I'm just taking them straight up on money line. They played Tampa Bay good last week. Like, granted, both secondaries are iffy, up and down, but Chargers barely beating Washington last week. Washington should have just lost to the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Thank God they didn't, because that was my lock. We took them, -3? Because the spread was at 3.5, so we took that half a point, and we did say throw some money on that money line too, because divisional games, they get close. Usually the other team covers the spread. But this is a crazy line right here. For the Cowboys, +3. Absolutely insane. So, that's sketchy right there. 7 minutes to go in this game. Still tied 1-1. Come on, Man United. Can Ronaldo get a game winner? Can he do one of those in the 90th? Come on, send it. So let's get into my running back sleepers for the DFS slate. And all these prices are based off DraftKings, and look specifically on DraftKings right here. So my sleepers for running backs this week, we got Devin Singletary, 4,900, which I think hell of a good value, especially last week. If you look, 11 rushes for 72 yards, and granted that was a game versus Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh's defense, could they be one of the greatest defenses of all time? Couple sacks, couple strip sacks against Josh Allen. And even only getting 11 rushes, 6.5 per carry, having 5 targets, catching 3 of them, granted, so only 8 yards. But as long as you get those catches and those targets in a game versus Miami, which I think is going to be back and forth, Buffalo's going to want to come out gunning. So I think, 4,900, I think that's easy right there. And then you got my next sleeper for the game, Javonte Williams. Last week, had 3 more rushes than Melvin Gordon. As a rookie, he's going up against Jacksonville this week. Only 45 yards on the ground last week versus the Giants. And granted, Melvin Gordon ended up with that 70-yard rushing touchdown at the end to push his yardage to 101. But I think Javonte Williams, within a couple weeks, he will be the number 1. And granted, that will always be a running back tandem, like 1A, 1B. But I think, as you've seen week 1, they want to get this rookie running back the ball, get him established in the league. What? VAR, 5 minutes to go. Fuck. But Javonte Williams versus Jacksonville, we seen what Mark Ingram did last week. Rushed it 26 times for like 80-something yards. I think Javonte Williams will average more than that. This will be a game where they'll probably get out early. You got Bridgewater gonna put up points and establishing that run, maybe a goal line touchdown. I think it's almost a guaranteed lock. But this is my second running back sleeper of the week at 4,400 at Jacksonville. My third sleeper of the week for the running back position, we got Leonard Fournette at 5,100, which is still crazy cheap, especially after you've seen the week he had last week. 7 targets, caught 5 of them for 27 yards. Wasn't bad. He let one, which was a little behind him, but he let one go off his hands for a pick. But only rushing it 9 times. That was really based on how the game was going and the game flow. It was a back and forth game. They were airing it out. But I think in this game, versus Atlanta, you got Tampa Bay at home. You've seen how Atlanta played last week. Didn't do much at all. I think Tampa Bay will get out early, and then they'll rely on that run game just to run out the clock. And I think Ronald Jones only having 4 carries last week. We had Fournette as our number 1 running back. And you fumble the ball, you're not going to get the carries. So I think he'll have at least 15 carries this week. He's definitely not going to only average 3.6 because Dallas's run defense pretty solid. It's their secondary you got to worry about. So I think this game, sleeper, lock in Leonard Fournette. And that's going to save you some money for another position where you could put a guaranteed lock in there. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's have a day. Let's have a day. So that wraps it up for the running back sleepers. Let's get on to the wide receivers. So we got 4 wide receiver sleepers for this week on DraftKings. The first one, we got, there he is. Cooper Kupp right there on the road versus Indy. And Indy, they have some injury woes, so you gotta keep that in mind. And last week, you see he's Matt Stafford's number 1 target. Robert Woods only targeted 4 times, catching 3 of them. Cooper Kupp, 7 catches on 10 targets. Animal. Caught that 56-yard bomb where he was just probably blown coverage, just left wide open. But hanging 108 yards on him and a tutty. Absolute monster. Oh, inside the box. Inside the box. Go! Let's go! Let's fucking go! Are you kidding me? Jesse Lingard? Let's go! Bruh. I can't even show it because it's some copyright, but boy, he just turned inside the box. Into the corner. Send it. Let's go. Let's fucking go. See that shit? Send it. Bro, I am amped right now. Boy's gonna have to take off the hoodie because I'm getting hot. Gonna have to turn the fan on. Baby girl, I need that fan because I'm hot now. Let's go. Send that shit. Jesse Lingard, absolute animal. What a curler into the top right corner. Picked it out perfect. In the 89th minute. Let's go. I said you're either going to see the defeat or you're going to see that win, bro. And that shit's different. What a curler. That boy, he got that curling iron out, placed it on the ball, and placed it into the corner. Send it. Absolute monster. Let's go. So, Cooper Kupp, first sleeper, and not really a sleeper. And you always have to be careful because players that have a high percentage of high own percentage, if they don't do well, that's going to kill you. But if they do well, that's going to push you right up there. And I can't believe this shit. Let's lock back in. Alright. But I think Cooper Kupp, even though he's going to be highly owned, he's a guaranteed lock in there. Like you see the top wide out. 8,000 for D-Hop. Last week, like sometimes you need those. Oh, that's a penalty. Sometimes you need those, right? D-Hop last week, had him in my Yahoo, was so close. Like if James Robinson, only 5 carries. Carlos Hyde had the first, 5 carries of the game. Like, what are you doing, Urban? Big Herb Meyer, what you doing? You seen what that boy did last year. So sometimes that's how it goes. But I think for this one, Cooper Kupp in the slot versus Indy, where they got injury woes in the secondary. And you see how Indy played, let up long balls versus Seattle last week, and Russ Wilson. Russ was cooking. So that's an absolute monster of a play. My next sleeper for the wide receiver position, we got Cole Beasley. And he was a sleeper last week. But still sitting at 4,600 on the road versus Miami, where Miami, Xavier Howard, solid secondary. But that slot receiver, that's crucial. That's crucial. And Josh Allen, he's going to pepper him with targets again. Last week, Beasley, 8 catches on 13 targets, only for 60 yards. But if he added in a tutty, that would have just boosted him like crazy. That's a penalty. Oh my God, Luke Shaw just had his arm out. Oh my God. That's all for a penalty. They're going to give it to him. If they don't give it to him, oh my God. That would just be lucky, but I think he had his arm out. VAR checking it. That's brutal. Once you start going to VAR, oh man, that's absolutely brutal. You can see go from the high to the low. Absolute. Yeah, he's going to look at VAR now. He's going to see that his arm was out wide, not by his body. He's going to give him a fucking penalty. That's brutal. It's obvious. It's obvious. And they didn't. Bro, Ronaldo had 2. See, it wasn't really. It's too close. They gave him a penalty, bro. They gave him a penalty in the 93rd plus 3. Oh my God. Brutal. Absolutely fucking brutal. That's awful. Can David De Gea? Can he come up with a big save? That's disgusting. But lock in. Second sleeper for the wide receiver position. Cole Beasley. 4,600 at Miami this week. I think it's a guarantee. Jalen Reagor. My third wide receiver sleeper for the week. He's sitting at 4,100. Caught 6 of 6 targets last week for 49 yards and a tutty. He's going, and that was against Atlanta last week where they were dominating the game. Passed it early, but didn't really have to pass too much after that. And I think, that's going to be brutal. Actually, you know what? They're about to take this penalty right now. We're going to give you some sound on this. Mark, no, bro. See, that's awful. You go from Lingard. Beautiful curler into the corner. Can David De Gea come up with a huge save? Come on. Come on. These are the ups and downs, right? Come on. Let's get it. David De Gea. Let's go! And he saved it. Are you fucking kidding me? Absolute animal. Let's go. Let's go. Call the game, son. Call the game. That's it. That's it. It's over. That's ridiculous, yo. What a last 5 minutes. So you see this shit live. Look at the save. Let's go. Absolute animal, but Jalen Reagor, my forward bouncing back and forth, but this shit's absolutely insane with a huge save to secure the victory. Let's go. So, Jalen Reagor, third waiver sleeper at the wide receiver position. Caught that tutty last week versus Atlanta. I think in this game this week versus San Fran, you've seen San Fran give up 33 points to Detroit. Goff had a solid game, so I think Hurts, he'll have another solid game this week. And at 4,100, I think that's, and at home, I think that's an absolute sleeper of a play. The last wide receiver sleeper for this week, we got DJ Chark, 5,600 versus Denver. Last week, he had 12 targets, but only caught 3 of them. But that just shows you he's Trev Lawrence's top target and top receiving option. So, even though... Facts, what a game. See, I didn't even realize. I'm buzzing right now, man. That's insane. I didn't even realize that I kept the fucking sound on and that shit. But DJ Chark, 5,600, a little expensive. Like Beasley, absolute, probably number 1 sleeper of this week for the wide receivers. But DJ Chark, 5,600 versus Denver. Caught that tutty, but it was on that long ball. Right? 41-yard touchdown. But only catching 3 targets, he could have had a crazy, crazy game. I think this week, going up against Denver, Denver's going to put up points, so it's going to force Trevor Lawrence to throw again. Trevor Lawrence threw it 51 times in his first career NFL game. That's crazy. But that just shows number 1 pick, they're going to want to use him just like that. Throw him right into the fire. Hey, go throw it 51 times. Fuck it. So this game, DJ Chalk as the number 1 target for Jacksonville, and Jacksonville should be playing from behind. Lock him in. Sleeper for this week. See, that they're talking about extremely poor catch rate. Targets and catches, it's really up and down because you never really know how that shit's gonna go. But as long as the targets are there, he's getting the opportunity. So I think for this game, DJ Chalk, sleeper, and only 400 less than Cup. I think we'll have a hell of a day versus Denver. And Denver just lost Ronald Darby. They're throwing Patrick Surtain out there. He's a rookie. He's a beast out of Alabama. But as I was reading into it, he's really up and down. He's not up to the NFL speed yet. But guess what? You have no more time to sit back and get up to speed. Now you in the fire. You got to worry about Marvin Jones, DJ Chalk. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to throw it at least 35 times again. So, opportunities are going to be there. Last sleeper, DJ Chalk. Now on to the tight ends. We got a couple tight end sleepers for the DFS slate. Noah Fant. Absolute monster. And you know Bridgewater. He likes the tight end. And Noah Fant only sitting. Where's he at? Only sitting 4,200 compared to the top tight end at 7,600 for Darren Waller. You had Fant last week. Caught 6 of 8 targets for 62 yards versus the Giants. If he just adds a touchdown, guess what? That's an app that he could be top 3 tight end for that week. And in this game versus Jacksonville, I think he's guaranteed to get a red zone touchdown. And in a game where it could be back and forth. Like, Javonte Williams, I think Denver will get up early. But if it doesn't happen like that, if Denver's defense starts giving up touchdowns on the road, it could play in perfect to be a high-scoring game. So Noah Fant at 4,200, I think that's a guaranteed sleeper. And that's almost like a catch-22, right? A guaranteed sleeper if he's a sleeper. It's not really guaranteed, but when sleepers, they be performing. So let's get to it. And my next sleeper for the tight end position, $300 less. And this is all based off DraftKings prices, if you're just listening to it on Anchor. But Jared Cook last week, 5 of 8 targets for 56 yards. Didn't quite get that touchdown, but played 47 of 81 snaps, which is solid. And yeah, you're looking at the backup tight end. Was on the field for 41 snaps, so that gets you a little skeptical. But he only had 1 target, so I'm not too worried about that. I picked Jared Cook in my 2 tight end league. And this week versus Dallas, you've seen what Gronk did. So I think this week versus Dallas, in what should be a shootout, Herbert and Dak going back and forth, I think this plays in perfect to Jared Cook having another day. And even if he adds in the touchdown right there, that turns those 10 fantasy points, 10.5 fantasy points, that turns that right into 16, 17, and whatever yards that he adds on that touchdown grab. So that pushes him into another top 3 tight end play for the week. So keep your eye out for that. I like 8 targets. And they're always going to have Herbert throwing the ball. They love that young quarterback over there in LA. And it's kind of weird saying LA. LA Chargers. LA's obviously the Rams. Come on. Moving back to San Diego. So that's the couple little tight end sleepers for this week. My 2 defense and special team locks of the week. We got Cleveland. And this was my top defensive ad of the week. Cleveland at home. We got the dog pound. Taking on Houston. Tyrod Taylor coming to town. They got a running back call that only average 3.3 per carry, 3.5 per carry. I think Cleveland will lock in. And granted, they gave up 33 points last week, but that was to the highest powered, if not second, behind Tampa Bay, highest powered offense. So, and they were up for a while. They just gave up crazy points in that second half. But I think they'll get after Houston. Tyrod, he's up and down career. Hell of a game last week, balled out. But I think this is going to be tough going on the road to Cleveland, dealing with those fans. And what a feeling it is to have a full stadium of fans just wilding out. That shit's beautiful to see, man. So at 3,500, not really a sleeper, but $1,000 less than the top defense. And I think Cleveland, even though Houston put up 37 points last week, I think this week it's going to be a tough time going on the road. So lock of the week for defense is the Cleveland Browns. And my other little sneaky play for defense, you got them $600 cheaper at $2,900. You got the Cincinnati Bengals on the road versus Chicago. We've seen how Chicago played week 1. And granted, they played the Rams, but they got Andy Dalton out there. You got a fan base who's probably not gonna, it doesn't help being at home, having that rookie quarterback behind Dalton. Yeah, I could already see it coming that they're gonna be chanting Fields' name. Couple 3-and-outs, and it's downhill for Chicago today. Dead ass. And I would not be surprised to see Justin Fields in there sooner than later. Like Matt Nagy, I don't know why he's playing this game. Like, you have that rookie. You see elsewhere, like, you have to have the rookies get play time. If you throw them in there week 2 or throw them in there halfway through the season, it doesn't bode well for his confidence, especially when you don't think Justin Fields knows how Andy Dalton's been performing over his career. Like, he knows, and granted, he's going to be a fucking professional, which is as dope to see. But, come on. Rookie quarterback out of Ohio State, got the stature. He's an absolute animal. So I think Chicago's fans, too, are going to play into this. In Cincinnati at only $2,900. I think they had 3 sacks last week. Yep, 3 sacks, a fumble recovery, and that was a solid game versus Minnesota. They gave up hella yards, but only held Dalvin Cook to 60 yards on the ground. So Montgomery, even though he had 100 plus last week versus the Rams, I do not think he'll be able to do that again versus Cincy. And I think Cincy, that's a hell of a play this week. Even though they're going on the road, I think defense travels and they'll lock in for sure. So at $2,900, that's my sleeper. Kind of lock, but pretty much a sleeper because you never know. Andy Dalton could complete some shit, get a long ball, blown coverage. But Cincinnati, they played well last week, and especially getting that victory over Minnesota. That was one of our locks. Minnesota should have won that game, but missed opportunities. That's what happens. And Joe Burrow, shout out Burrow out there balling. And shout out Jamar Chase. Had what catching issues? What catching issues? Let's just look at him quick just so we know with the stats. I think he had 5 catches for over 100. Yeah. 5 catches on 7 targets for 101 and a tutty. Come on. That boy out there balling. So, shout out Jamar Chase. Shout out Joe Burrow coming off that injury, balling out. And those are my DFS sleepers for this week. So let's get into the NFL locks. My NFL locks and props for this week. We're just gonna swing through it quick. Set over here to see if anything's shifting. So my first lock of the week on the slate, we got Buffalo -3.5 on the road versus Miami. I think Miami will play them tough, especially Buffalo had a shaky week 1. But I think Buffalo going on the road, Josh Allen's gonna want to bounce back in a big way. We're gonna stay away from that spread because they could easily win by 3 points, and we seen last week that half a point will fuck you over. So we're gonna take Buffalo -200 on the money line, staying away from the over/under in that game. My next lock of the week, it was how we ended the DFS Sleepers. We're gonna take Cincinnati straight up on the money line, +105. A 1.5 spread, I'm not gonna really fuck with that too much. Bruh, that's absolutely insane. Kirk is still over there fucking. Bruh, I'm back there, I'm fucking mowing the shit. Water all over, trying to fucking flood him out. All of a sudden, them bitches just fucking crazy. So I think this game, Burrow balled out last week. They got a solid defense. It's kind of crazy. Probably the only reason why they're underdogs in this game is because traveling on the road to Soldier Field is gonna be tough. That's a game that'll probably hit the under 44.5. But we're gonna take Cincinnati on the money line, +105. Lock it in. My next lock, Denver traveling on the road to Jacksonville. This is one that could get sketchy. -6. Denver played a hell of a game last week, and going up against a rookie quarterback who did have 3 touchdowns, but the biggest stat is those 3 picks. He tried making some throws that they were saying you can make in college because you're playing kids that are going to go, right, use their degree and go get a job. And then you're playing kids that are going in the NFL getting drafted. So college is really up and down with the quality of players starting. You get to the NFL, you can't just make those throws based off your nasty arm talent, right? He's an absolute beast, Trev Lawrence, but throwing 3 picks last week, I think that's going to get sketchy versus a Denver defense where you're going to have Von Miller coming after you. They got an absolute stout defense, and defense does travel. So we're going to take Denver -6 on the spread. We're going to stay away from the money line. I think they'll easily be able to cover that spread. So Denver -6, lock it in. Next game we got LA Rams on the road versus the Colts. And this just shifted this morning. And we always said we printed out early in the week just so we could see how the lines shift. So, see, that shifted just a half point, but that half point will fuck you over. Early on, they were -3.5 favorites. Now, as you can see, -4. I'm not sure if they'll cover that spread because Colts coming off a game last week where they got dominated by Seattle. I think playing at home, they'll want to get out there, they'll want to get after it. But that Rams defense, if you watch them and granted it was versus Chicago, but Wentz, he's good for a pick or 2. He gets kind of shaky sometimes. But LA played absolutely outstanding. Matt Stafford in that blue and gold, looking, that shit looks fire. Dead ass. That blue and gold, and it was the away jerseys, all white. Them shits was gas. So Matt Stafford, absolute dog out there, going on the road. Yeah. Going on the road versus Indy. I'm not gonna worry about that too much. Oh, what's up? Got the iPad over there. We dropped in the last show. Bruh. Had the soundboard on the iPad, right? Ka-ching, ka-ching. Now, completely shattered. Spiderweb fucking screen. So, during the week, get that back locked in. But LA Rams, we're going to stay away from the -4 spread, even though they'll probably easily cover that. especially seeing how the Colts played last week and the passing attack of the Rams. And even Darrell Henderson, he had a hell of a game last week. So for this game, see, and just this morning, LA Rams went from -200 to -210. So either way, I'm going to take them on the money line, on the road versus Indy, add them to the parlay, lock it in. My next game, we already kind of covered it a little bit, but New England Patriots on the road versus the Jets. We're going to stay away from the spread because it's a divisional matchup. It's going to get tough. But Mac Jones, solid last week. Throwing it 29, completing 29 to 39 passes and having a tutty in there. I think this week will continue to stay in form. And New England, -6, that's pretty sketchy, especially divisional matchup, even though they are facing a rookie quarterback, and even though the Jets did lose to the Panthers last week. I think it'll be a close game, so I'm going to stay away from the spread, and I'm going to lock in New England, -250. And my next lock, we cooking. That's already 5. So let's get on to the 6th lock of the day. And this is a game that's really hard to call either way. We got the San Francisco 49ers on the road versus Philly. San Fran -3. I could easily see Philly with that defense getting a dub. And especially playing at home. They traveled to Atlanta last week, dominated the Falcons. This week, Garoppolo, they're missing Raheem Mostert. And granted, the rookie Elijah Mitchell, hell of a game last week. Kyle Shanahan's been wild, and you see him come out. Ayuk, he's not one of the top wideouts. What? What? Come on, man. And then to say the things he said about Trey Sermon, it didn't even have to do with his injury from college or recovering or making sure he's fully adapted to the NFL. Bruh straight up said he's not one of the top 3 running backs. Top 3? What? You're not one of the top 3 running backs and you drafted him in the 3rd round? And then you start the 6th rounder? And granted, Elijah Mitchell, hell of a game, but damn, he can't even suit up for the game? Healthy scratch? That's hectic. It has to be something deeper than that. And Kyle Shanahan, what this is reading to me is he likes headlines. He likes to put himself in the light, and he's almost making himself bigger than the team when it comes to talking about his plays. That's absolutely ridiculous. I think that's conversations that you have behind closed doors, and when the media tries to trick you to get you to say some dumb shit, that's going to create some hostility in that locker room. Going to have players talking. If you don't think Ayuk is talking to other players, this dude wildin'. Or Trey Sermon talking to folks too, healthy scratch. Bro, they aren't out there. It's not all fucking peaches and flowers over there in fucking San Fran. I think Kyle Shanahan, he might need a little ego check. Because that's, ego check. Let's go. So for that, we're going to take Philly. We took them +3 last week. They easily covered that with that dominant victory. This week, we're going to take them +3 again. And with the over-under in this game at 49 points, I think there's going to be points, or this game's going to be back and forth. So with the over-under at 49, we're going to lock in Philly +3 on the spread, and we're going to lock in over 49 points in what should be one of the games of the week, scoring-wise. So those are my locks for that San Fran and Philly game. Now we got 3 more locks on the slate. My next one at 4 o'clock, and the 4 o'clock game's at gas. If you watched the last show, the Thursday night show, 4 o'clock game's at gas this week. Granted, Falcons, Tampa Bay, divisional matchup, not too ill of a game. But Minnesota at the Cardinals, Cowboys at the Chargers, and the Titans at the Seahawks, that 4 o'clock slate is big different. So, Minnesota traveling on the road versus the Cardinals. We're going to stay away from winners because we know Minnesota could put up points. They got a high-powered offense. And Arizona last week putting 38 on Tennessee's head. And granted, they're favored by 3.5, but I could easily see Arizona winning a close game, winning by a field goal at the end. So in this game, I think it's going to be back and forth. Two high-powered offenses. With the over-under at 50.5, we're going to lock in the over 50.5 and stay away from winners in this game. The next one, we're gonna try to pick this Cowboys Chargers game. And it's kind of sketching me out that the Chargers are -3 versus a Cowboys team who played like they did versus Tampa Bay. But in this game, with the over-under at 55, it could be a crazy back-and-forth game between the quarterbacks. But I think the Cowboys will come out. And the Chargers got a solid defense, too. Derwin James out there balling. Bosa coming off the edge. They got a solid defense. So this is a game where it'll probably hit the under. But we're going to take the Cowboys on the money line going on the road to L.A. We're going to take them +140 to get that first victory of the year. And Dak, what a performance coming off that injury. He absolutely balled out. Targets all over the field, or weapons all over the field. Dalton Schultz, hell of a game last week. I should show you that quick. That was one of my sneaky plays. At the tight end position. So last week, Dalton Schultz caught all 6 of his targets for 45 yards. Had 10.5 fantasy points. If he gets a red zone touchdown, one of the top tight end plays. So he was just a red zone touchdown away. But 6 targets, that just shows he's the solidified #1 tight end over there in Dallas. So that's even a sneaky play at 3,300 if he could go put in work. But you got to be worried about Derwin James over the middle, playing that kind of that rover position, rover safety. So, a little sneaky pick last week. Didn't bowl the greatest, but 10.5 fantasy points for what? The 5th option on the team? 5th? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So, that was a pretty solid sleeper pick last week. And for that Dallas versus Chargers game, lock in Dallas +140 to get the victory on the road. We're staying away from that Tennessee and Seahawks game. Let's get into that Sunday night game. Bruh, tonight, Chiefs versus Ravens. What a game this is going to be, right? Ravens, hell of a game on Monday night versus the Raiders. But you seen Derek Carr put up 450 yards. That secondary is shaky, especially missing Marcus Peters now out for the year. It's tough. Matt Judon now in New England. It's going to get tough for the Ravens. But I think in one of those high-powered, high-scoring games, I think Lamar will be in there. He'll put in work. I think they'll probably cover that 3.5. It's going to be one of those close games. But we're going to stay away from winners in this one. And with the over-under at 53.5, I think Mahomes and Lamar Jackson going to have crazy games. So let's lock in the over 53.5 to end the locks for today. Let's go. And let's wrap up the show with some prop bets. Cole Beasley, 8 catches on 13 targets last week. His over-under on catches this week is only 4.5. What? He's that slot receiver going up against Miami where you know Diggs and Xavier Howard, that's going to be a battle all game. And Josh Allen, he's going to stay away from it just knowing that top cornerback is probably going to be shadowing Stephon Diggs all game. So with Cole Beasley over-under, 4.5 catches, take the over all day. My next prop, Trev Lawrence, his over-under on passing attempts is 34.5. Had 51 last week versus Houston, and granted that was because of the game flow and because Jacksonville kept on giving up points, gave up 37 to Houston. I think this week you got Jacksonville. It could get tough, But versus Denver, I think they'll be down all game. And you see him throw 51 times last week. The game flow going how it did. I think this is gonna play perfectly. And this will probably change. 34.5, that'll probably jump to maybe 35, 36. Like I seen both Herbert and Dak Prescott, both their passing attempts over under is at 39.5. That's absolutely crazy. With a number like that, you gotta stay away from it. But Trev Lawrence, over 34.5 passing attempts. I think that's guaranteed. That boy, he's gonna be slinging rock. And I think 51 passing attempts last week. The running game, bruh, James Robinson, 5 rushes. I think Carlos Hyde has 6. Come on, man. Maybe they'll want to get that established a little more. But Urban Meyer, college coach now in the NFL, you never really know how he's going to run shit. And being a college coach, I think that's going to play in perfectly to wanting to pass all the time, especially having the top pick and the top quarterback this year. So, over 34.5, lock it in. And in the same game, this is even a sleeper for your fantasy lineups. James O'Shaughnessy, if you're in 2 tight end leagues, he should not be out there on the waiver wire. And he probably will be because people seen Manhurts catch that touchdown last week. But James O'Shaughnessy, he had a sneaky 6 catches on 8 targets last week. And granted, 8 targets because Trev Lawrence threw it 51 times. But that just shows he's that number 1 tight end target over there in Jacksonville. And with his over-under on receptions at 2.5, that's easy. Easy money. So, go over here receiving. It'll probably shift up too. Just make sure it didn't shift up total receptions. Yeah, 2.5. And it's the minus 105 underdog. Come on. That's easy. So, lock in over 2.5 receptions for James O'Shaughnessy. My next lock. Damn, what the shit flying through the air. I don't know if I'll probably look back on a video, see if that shit came in a video. What the fuck was that? But James White, his over-under at 3.5 catches. He's coming off a game versus Miami where he got targeted 7 times, caught 6 of them, and absolute monster out of the backfield. And what's even sneakier is Damian Harris had 3 targets last week too. But James White, bro, is it raining out? What the fuck? But James White, he's that check down for Mac Jones. And you know rookie quarterbacks, they always need that go-to check down receiver who's established vet. And James White is just that. 7 targets last week versus Miami. I think this week versus the Jets could be a close game, especially because they're traveling on the road. Mac Jones, first road game in the NFL. But I think James White, he's going to be that lockdown, check down receiver or receiving running back out of the backfield. And with his over-under at 3.5, let's just go make sure that the odds didn't change on it. But I think that's plus odds. And for a receiver, total receptions, yeah, 3.5. Actually, that shifted just a little bit. I'm pretty sure it was at plus 110. But the over 3.5 catches is now at plus 105. Lock in the over. I think this is a game where he'll easily, James White, he'll be a solid fantasy play this week. I wouldn't play him in DFS, but he'll probably get you enough catches. Maybe not that touchdown, but he'll get you enough catches to be serviceable in your fantasy lineup. So, over 3.5, lock it in. And kind of the same play, but going over to Indy, we have Nyheim Hines, who over-under on his receptions is 3.5. Had 8 targets last week, caught 6 of them. He's that go-to out of the backfield receiver. He caught those 6 catches. Oh no. Caught 6 of those 8 targets versus Seattle last week. And granted, they were playing from behind all game. But I think this is a game versus the Rams where it'll be the same game script. And I think it's at plus 110 also. Total reception, yeah. Still at plus 110. I think that's easy, and great value for Nyheim Hines. And 8 targets last week, that's a huge number. And especially with catching 6 of them, over 3.5 for Nyheim Hines receptions. Lock it in. Kyler Murray over here in that Arizona versus Minnesota game. That also could be one of the games of the week. His over-under on touchdown passes, and this is definitely going to shift closer to kickoff. But Kyler Murray, over-under on touchdown passes is 1.5. Now, this could have already switched. Still there. And what do we say about odds? Once it reaches that minus 170 as a favorite, you know any second that could shift over to 2.5, and then it becomes a sketchy play. But as long as you get it in early, I think this is a guaranteed lock. Last week, 21 of 32 for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns at Tennessee. That's hell of a day by Kyler. And with the over-under at 1.5, that's so easy. But I'm guaranteeing that to shift closer to kickoff. And that's a 4 o'clock game. So you have up until probably 1, 2 o'clock before that shifts, because I know a lot of money is going to be coming on that over 1.5, especially after he dropped 4 touchdowns last week. And they don't really have a running game. James Conner, Chase Edmonds, not really much of a running game. They're going to want Kyler to be out there balling. So I think this is a guarantee prop of the week. Over 1.5 touchdown passes for Kyler Murray. Lock it in. And my last prop lock of the week, right? We over here, prop, locking and dropping. Prop, locking and dropping. But Patty Mahomes, Sunday Night Football, huge game versus the Ravens. Gonna be touchdowns left and right with his over, or with the over-under on his touchdown passes at 2.5. Let's just go make sure. I think that's at plus 120, which is absolutely ridiculous, especially after last week versus Cleveland, who better defense than the Ravens. And granted, you got to worry about Marlon Humphrey, but we seen last week Derek Carr dropping 450. It just shows, even if Marlon Humphrey is on Tyreek all game, Mahomes is going to find his targets either way. It does not matter. He's matchup proof. And we said Josh Allen was matchup proof. I did not know Pittsburgh's defense was that fucking stout. But J.J. Watt coming off the edge with that swim move, that shit was big different. But I think, just about to say Kyler, Patty Mahomes, over 2.5 touchdown passes in the game versus the Ravens, where there's going to be points left and right, touchdowns left and right. You know, all they do is pass. Granted, they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think this game, the Ravens are going to put up points. And with that over at plus 120 odds, I think that's great value. Last week versus Cleveland, Patty Mahomes went 27 of 36, dropped 337 yards and 3 tutties versus Cleveland, and had 2 tutties. Well, actually, I think he had all 3 touchdowns in the second half, because I think Kelsey caught 2 and that bomb to Tyreek. I think this is a game where he'll probably have 4 touchdown passes, and they're probably gonna need it. So this game, lock in over 2.5 touchdown passes for Patty Mahomes. Let's get to it. Let's have a day. Just like yesterday. Let's go. Shout out High Stakes Takes. Make sure you're following all the picks on Twitter at High Stakes Takes. And that's with the Z, because Twitter doesn't know how to get their shit together. They're over there, right? The whole algorithm, seeing certain tweets, not really promoting certain shit, promoting a bunch of other bullshit. Like, motherfucker, bro, how do you want to get into it? But I think that's a guaranteed lock. And Dortmund's just starting right now. See, getting this shit in. It's probably good that we stayed away from that. Tottenham versus Chelsea. Yeah, we'll stay away from that one too. But a couple little soccer locks to end the show. PSG versus Lyon. I think with the over-under at 3.5, PSG at -300 favorite. Granted, Lyon did just beat Rangers in the Europa League, but only put up 2 goals. They've been known to give up goals left and right. Not really a great Ligue 1 campaign so far, but PSG, they're going to be wanting to come back. Mbappe, he's questionable with an ankle injury, but I think either way, whether or not he starts, I think they're guaranteed to get this victory at home. And with the over-under at 3.5, that's at +100 odds. Definitely could have shifted. Just make sure. See, it looks like everything stayed the same. Oh. +100 odds just yesterday. Now has shifted to -135. Lock in the over and lock in PSG -300. That's absolute beast. Make sure I write that down so I don't forget. Because we'll see on Twitter, we tweet out about 60% of our picks, but you have that limit of how much you can put in a tweet. I don't want to put out too many. I want to start getting crazy views, and all the locks will be on the podcast. We don't put out all of them on the Twitter just for that reason. Make sure you watch the show. Make sure you're seeing all the hitters going crazy. So Dortmund, we were gonna send probably Dortmund and the over, but we're gonna stay away from that. At 12 o'clock over in Serie A, we got Lazio versus Cagliari. Over under was at 2.5. That definitely shifted to 3.5. If you don't get it in early enough, actually, Lazio still -250. Shifted down just a little bit. So the over 2.5 for this game was at -170. Now it's -160, just a little shift. But that's probably based off. Let's see who they're throwing out there for this game. Ciro Immobile, Pedro, Felipe Anderson. Actually starting Milinkovic-Savic this game. Thank you. And with Lucas Labia and Luis Alberto. Let's go. I think this is a guaranteed victory for Lazio. And we're going to take the over 2.5. Send it. And the other game, we got Verona versus AS Roma. Just check lineups for that game. Also at 12 o'clock, Tammy Abraham. They've been playing absolute on fire this year. Going on the road against Verona, it could get sketchy, but there's been goals left and right in those AS Roma games. And let's just make sure that the over-under is still at 2.5. I think the over in that game is a guarantee. Ooh. Shifted just down. It was at -145. Now it's at -135. Roma was -125 favorites. That shifted down, and just like we just said, going on the road versus Verona is gonna get a little sketchy. So that's probably why that shifted. But I could easily see a 2-2 draw in this one. And yesterday, we said Leipzig first coin going on the road, it was gonna get sketchy. I think they drew it was 4 out of their last 6 meetings. So we were saying the draw +275, it was great value. What ended up happening? Draw 1-1. Opportunities left and right, but ended up hitting that draw. So hopefully y'all seen that. Hopefully y'all threw it in. But for this game, I would not be surprised to see the draw hit +260. But with the over-under at 2.5, we're going to take the over. That's almost a guarantee. And for the last game in Serie A, you got Juventus at home versus versus AC Milan. Over under at 2.5. Could get sketchy. I've also seen, that's absolutely insane. Juventus moved from plus 105 to now minus 106. You seen how AC Milan played? Do y'all hear that? Bro, they getting busy. I don't know if that's fucking rain. I don't know if them motherfuckers are just jumping. Them motherfuckers just boom, 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 boom. Them boys getting busy. Oh, almost an hour to kick off. This will be out at 12 o'clock. Let's get to it. And over under on that Roma game, we're going to take the over 2.5 and stay away from winners. Juventus versus AC Milan. I think AC Milan staying within a goal, that's a beautiful bet. I think they'll probably win in that plus 270. Money line is a hell of a bet on the road. And if AC Milan played like they did, and granted Liverpool pretty much dominated the game, but they're clinical in front of net. They put goals away. And Juventus, I think they're riding high right now, so they'll be in for a little bit of a reality check, especially when you're playing a top team like AC Milan. And Leao playing out of his mind on the wing. And Salesmakers, I didn't really know too much about him. He is an absolute beast on the other side. So AC Milan plus 0.5, lock it in. See, to make sure we're writing it down. Lies plus over 2.5. We're gonna stay away from that Dortmund since it already started. We took Bayern minus 3.5. Ended up winning 7-0. We said it was a little sketchy, but Bayern playing ridiculous this year. Beat a team 12-0 in the DFB Pokal. Beat Bochum 7-0 at home. That is an absolute ridiculous team. And coming off that 3-0 victory versus Barcelona, they could easily win the Champions League this year. I would not be surprised. There's so many top teams that could win. Fucking love it. We took PSV this morning. That was our other lock. But Valencia versus Real Madrid. Now, Real Madrid played well versus Inter. They probably could have lost that game, but got that victory at the end. And going on the road versus Valencia, there's going to be goals left and right in this game. With the over-under at 2.5, and let's just make sure it hasn't shifted. See, Real Madrid went from minus 112 to now minus 124. Total goals shifted down just a little. The over was minus 140 when I wrote it down. Now it's minus 130. They're probably seeing like a 1-1 draw or a 2-0 victory for Real Madrid. But I think this is guaranteed to hit the over 2.5. So we're locking that in. Over 2.5. Lock it. And my last lock of the day, and this would probably shifted like a mud hubber. Over in Portugal. Porto, yeah. See, it shifted 100. Shifted, I don't know if it's points, but shifted 100 points from minus 490 to minus 590. Now the handicap bet is at minus 2.5. That's sketch. And see, the over on that game early was minus 270 for it to hit the over 2.5. Now, as you see, the over 3.5 is not just plus, because usually if it's minus 170 and it shifts to over under at 3.5, you'll see the over stick at plus 140. But looking at it now, at plus 120 odds, that shifted like crazy. You see a lot of the money coming in on the over and Porto. I would not be surprised to see Porto cover that minus 2.5. But minus 590, we're actually going to stay away from that game. It's too, right? Not much value there at all. We did see Man United, the other game I was sketched out about. We did see them cover minus 2.5, but this game, it'll probably get a little sketchy out there. So that wraps it up for the Sunday show. Let's get to it. Let's have a fucking day. 9 locks in the NFL. Oh. 9 locks in the NFL. We got 7 prop bets going. And those DFS sleepers are sneaky. So, let's have a fucking day. Let's end it with JB on the beat. Turn that up for me one time. Or if you just don't want to, right? It might not hit and play. There it is. Let's have a day. High Stakes Takes back again on this Sunday.